Trump thought this would be an easy win, just a live IQ test against Obama on national television, but barely half a minute in, the room went silent, and for the first time, the look on Trump's face revealed everything that it started with a moment no one expected, a sunny afternoon in Washington, cameras flashing, reporters shouting, and Trump standing in the Rose Garden, that familiar grin hinting at something bold. This time, it wasn't about policy, the economy, or the media. It was about Barack Obama. Let's be honest, Trump said, pointing at the crowd of journalists. Everyone talks about how smart Obama is, but I'd love to see him take an IQ test with me. I'd win. Easily. A few reporters chuckled, assuming it was just another offhand joke. But Trump didn't laugh. He paused, letting the cameras drink him in, posture confident, tone satisfied. No one in history, he added, has a higher IQ than me. Nobody. The room went silent for a beat, then erupted in questions. Mr. President, are you serious? One reporter asked. Trump turned, dead serious. Let's do it. Tell Obama I'll even let him pick the test. Within minutes, the clip went viral. News networks replayed it on loop. Twitter exploded. Hashtags like hashtag IQ Test Challenge and hashtag Trump vs. Obama started trending before he even left the podium. His communications team looked half amused, half nervous, unsure whether it was genius or disaster, but Trump thrived on it. The attention, the chaos, he called it classic showmanship. Retweeting fan edits of himself towering over a Photoshop test paper labeled genius, he declared it fun, good TV. For hours, everyone waited for Obama's response. Cable hosts dissected every word. Late-night comedians couldn't resist. The Rose Garden moment became a global sensation. Inside the White House, some aides were uneasy. Victor Dunning, a blunt senior aide, tried to reason with him in the Oval Office. Mr. President, he said quietly, if Obama takes this challenge seriously, it could backfire. He's measured. Sharp. People like him calm. Trump waved a hand dismissively. Victor, people love me when I win. That's all this is, winning. Everyone will see who's smarter. Victor countered carefully, they'll see who's louder. Trump didn't answer. He stared out the window at the reporters lingering on the lawn. He won't do it, he finally said. He's all talk. That's why I'm president, and he's not. But Trump underestimated Obama's quiet power, the ability to surprise without raising his voice. That evening, in a quiet home office in Martha's Vineyard, Obama sat at his desk, scrolling headlines. He chuckled softly. Michelle leaned on the doorframe. Let me guess, she said. Viral again. He looked up, smiling. Apparently, I've been challenged to a duel of wits. With who this time? She teased. Trump. An IQ test, he said. Michelle rolled her eyes. You're not seriously thinking of responding, are you? He paused, thoughtful. Maybe. But not the way he expects. Obama understood something Trump didn't, how to turn noise into clarity. He didn't rush to social media or call a press conference. He let the chaos build, the pundits, the memes, the late-night punchlines. Anticipation grew. The world waited. Meanwhile, the White House noticed the public tone shifting. What began as amusement was turning to doubt. Editorials questioned whether a sitting president should challenge his predecessor. Some mocked it as playground politics. Even Trump's fans questioned the need. I love the guy, one caller said on a Florida radio show, but why prove anything to Obama? Just do your job. Trump thrived on the controversy. For him, no press was bad press, but the next morning, his confidence took a hit. Obama was scheduled for a virtual education summit hosted by Stanford, non-political, focused on learning and innovation. Most assumed he would ignore the challenge that he didn't. As Obama took the stage, the moderator mentioned the viral challenge with a smirk. Obama chuckled, paused, then leaned toward the camera. Well, he said, if the president wants to measure intelligence, I'm happy to help. But maybe we do it the right way. Live, transparent, moderated by actual experts. That seems fair. The audience laughed, not mockingly, but with admiration. Obama's calm confidence cut through the noise like a knife. It wasn't defensive. It was grace. Trump's team watched from the West Wing. Victor exhaled. He accepted it, he muttered. Trump leaned back, smirk fading. Good, he said. Let's see if he can keep up. Deep down, even Trump knew this wasn't just media spectacle. It was pride versus composure, noise versus intellect. And what came next would show that sometimes, the calmest man in the room can command the loudest silence. Within minutes of Obama's response, the world was watching. The internet erupted like a storm. Twitter feeds flooded with clips. TikTok users transformed Obama's calm smile into cinematic montages. YouTube exploded with compilations titled things like "Obama outsmarts Trump in 10 seconds flat." The hashtag IQGate dominated trending lists, overtaking celebrity gossip and international headlines. Even late-night hosts couldn't resist. By 9 p.m., clips of Obama saying, "Let's do it live with experts," were already stitched next to Trump's boast, "Nobody has a higher IQ than me." The contrast spoke volumes. One measured and poised, the other loud and defensive. But the real reaction came from everyday people. In Phoenix, a teacher named Ronald Keaton played Obama's clip for his students during lunch. "That's composure," he told them. "Confidence without shouting." The students laughed, one whispering, "Obama just owned him politely." In Miami, retirees debated the moment at a cafe. "Trump picked the wrong fight this time," one said. Another replied, "He always does. He just doesn't realize it until it's too late." Even political commentators who usually stayed neutral weighed in. On one cable network, conservative strategist Linda Travers shook her head. "The president's turning this into a circus," she said. "Obama's playing chess while Trump's busy flipping the board." Meanwhile, Trump watched it all from the residence, flipping between channels. Every pundit, every headline carried Obama's words, not his. That irritated him more than anything. Control of the narrative was slipping through his fingers. He grabbed his phone and opened Truth Social. His thumbs flew. Obama's response is weak. Everyone knows he's scared of a real test. I'd score perfect marks. Within minutes, the post was shared thousands of times. Loyal supporters defended him fiercely. "He's the smartest president in history," one wrote. Another said, "Obama's afraid." Someone replied, "Afraid of what? A spelling test?" Even Trump's media allies were split. Some framed it as harmless fun, others quietly pulled back. They'd seen this pattern before, Trump making a bold claim, only for it to become tomorrow's punchline. Late that evening, Fox News ran a segment, IQ Challenge, Who Really Wins? Not flattering. A guest psychologist explained that IQ tests measure reasoning and comprehension, not dominance. Confidence can't replace logic. Back in the West Wing, Trump's advisors gathered again, tension thick in the air. Victor Dunning stood by the television, arms crossed. "It's getting out of hand," he said. "You wanted attention. Now it's a firestorm." Trump waved him off. "People love it. Ratings through the roof." Victor pressed carefully. "Ratings don't fix credibility." Trump leaned forward. "I care about winning." Victor hesitated. "Then maybe think about how to win without losing face." Trump ignored him. His phone buzzed again, CNN headline flashing, "Obama accepts Trump's IQ challenge, experts to moderate." For the first time, Trump's smirk faltered. Obama wasn't backing down. He was setting the terms. That night, in Martha's Vineyard, Obama sat quietly in front of his laptop, reviewing emails from Stanford faculty. Several cognitive researchers had volunteered to design a fair televised reasoning test. He read through proposals with calm interest. Michelle entered, holding a mug of tea. "You're really going to do it?" she asked. He looked up, thoughtful. "Not for me. For the principal." You don't let someone rewrite what intelligence looks like. She smiled faintly. You always did turn it into a teaching moment. The next morning, the world woke to chaos. Every news outlet led with the story, Obama accepts test, live in Los Angeles. A morning show co-host gasped. He's actually doing it. She laughed in disbelief. This is history. Her co-host added, not history yet, but definitely must-watch TV. Across social platforms, people placed bets on the outcome. Memes flooded the internet. Side-by-side comparisons of Trump and Obama were captioned brains versus bravado or the test of the century. One viral clip showed Obama calmly walking into a conference room as dramatic music played, the words, 31 seconds later, flashing across the screen. International media joined in. BBC called it a clash of intellect and ego. French outlets dubbed it le duel du siècle. In Washington, Trump's inner circle was anything but amused. Staff whispered about approval ratings. Some urged him to back out, claiming the presidency shouldn't be cheapened by a televised IQ contest. Others argued it was too late, backing out now would look worse. Trump paced the Oval Office, muttering, he thinks he can beat me. We'll see. Meanwhile, Obama's team prepared quietly. No leaks. No ego. Methodical. His communications director released a brief statement. President Obama appreciates the opportunity for a constructive public discussion on cognitive reasoning and leadership. The contrast was clear. By nightfall, the nation was on edge. Cable channels ran countdowns, Trump versus Obama IQ test, tomorrow at 8 p.m., but beneath the hype, something deeper was unfolding. What began as a showman's challenge was turning into a test of character. And Obama's calm, methodical preparation would soon change everything. The morning of the summit felt unlike anything anyone expected. There was none of the usual chaos, none of the tension that usually accompanies a public challenge of this scale. Instead, Obama's team moved with quiet precision, calm, focused, almost surgical. The online education summit hosted by Stanford was already trending, but now it had captured global attention. What had once been a routine discussion about learning and innovation had become the most anticipated live stream of the year. Inside a sleek conference room overlooking the Massachusetts coast, cameras were adjusted, microphones tested. Obama arrived a few minutes early, dressed in a simple navy suit, no entourage, no theatrics. He greeted the crew with his signature warmth. Morning, folks. Let's keep it simple today, he said, that easy smile instantly putting everyone at ease. The moderator, a respected academic named Dr. Helen Strauss, leaned over and whispered, I have to ask, are you really going to mention the IQ thing? Obama chuckled softly. I think the audience already has, he replied. As the broadcast went live, viewers across the country tuned in, teachers, parents, college students, even foreign diplomats. The chat window scrolled faster than anyone could read, filled with comments like, he's actually here, and, will he say something about Trump? The first 20 minutes went smoothly. Obama spoke about the importance of curiosity, how education builds bridges between generations. His tone was steady, reflective, filled with that calm presence that always seemed to center a room. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. Dr. Strauss smiled. President Obama, before we close, there's something trending online. I think you know what I'm referring to. Obama grinned. I might have seen a few headlines, he said. She continued, the current president publicly challenged you to an IQ test. Do you have any comment? The air seemed to shift. Obama paused briefly, looking directly into the camera, then spoke with measured grace. Well, he began, if the president wants to measure intelligence, I think that's fine. But maybe we do it the right way, live, transparent, moderated by experts, and focused on reasoning, not rhetoric. The audience laughed lightly, but it wasn't mockery. It was respect. He wasn't throwing shade, he was setting a tone that said, we can handle this with intelligence in class. Leaning forward slightly, hands clasped, he added, the truth is, intelligence isn't about who talks the loudest or who boasts the biggest. It's about how you think under pressure, how you listen, how you learn, and how you treat the people who disagree with you. That's real intelligence. The line hit hard. Within seconds, viewers were clipping, captioning, and sharing it everywhere. How you think under pressure became the phrase of the day. Teachers tweeted it, journalists quoted it, even a few politicians quietly reshared it. Meanwhile, in Washington, Trump watched from the residence, arms crossed, a frown forming. His aides exchanged uneasy glances. "He's doing it again," Victor Dunning muttered. "He's turning this into something meaningful." Trump didn't respond. His eyes stayed glued to the screen as Obama continued. "I'll accept the challenge," Obama said finally. "But let's make it productive. Let's have a discussion about problem-solving, reasoning, comprehension, decision-making. No tricks. No gotchas. Just real thinking." The chat section of the live stream exploded. Viewers couldn't believe it. Obama wasn't dodging. He was accepting, and raising the bar. Dr. Strauss smiled. "So, a live test, moderated by experts?" Obama nodded. "If that's what he wants, let's do it. The public can judge for themselves. After all, transparency is a good thing." That single sentence, "the public can judge for themselves," shifted everything. It wasn't anger. It wasn't arrogance. It was quiet control, the kind that commands respect without demanding it. By the time the live stream ended, clips were already circulating online. News outlets scrambled. CNN labeled it Obama's cool counter. MSNBC called it grace under fire. Even Fox News ran "Obama accepts Trump's IQ challenge on his own terms." That night, talk shows dissected every frame, the subtle smile, the timing, the composure. One late-night host joked, "You could practically hear Trump's blood pressure rise from here." The audience roared. Back in D.C., Trump called an emergency meeting with his communications team. "We're doing it," he announced, pacing behind the resolute desk. "Get me the best test, the best moderators. Make it live. We'll show them who's smarter." Victor sighed quietly. "Sir, maybe you should." "No maybes," Trump interrupted. "It's happening. Schedule it. I want everyone watching." As his team scrambled to coordinate logistics, Victor couldn't help but think of Obama's tone, calm, thoughtful, deliberate. He had seen it before, back during the campaign years. And now, he knew it was going to make all the difference. Obama's quiet confidence often disarmed even his fiercest critics. He knew exactly what he was doing, Victor muttered under his breath in the West Wing. Across the country, ordinary Americans were glued to their screens. The internet split into two camps, those who saw this as entertainment, and those who recognized it as something far more symbolic. Comment sections erupted with debates about what intelligence truly meant: book smarts, emotional awareness, leadership. Everyone had an opinion. By sunrise the next day, a date had been set. Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, live from the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., 2 presidents, 1 stage, no teleprompters. The announcement alone paralyzed the internet for hours. Every news network cleared its evening lineup. Online stores began selling t-shirts emblazoned with "I'm with Obama" or "Trump 200 IQ Club," but beneath the memes and the noise, there was something different. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was contrast. The world was about to witness two very different kinds of intelligence collide. Obama spent the evening with his daughters, laughing over takeout. When one asked if he was nervous, he smiled. "No," he said. "You don't get nervous when you already know who you are." Yet the next phase, the setup for the test, would push both men further than they had ever anticipated. The announcement hit the world like a thunderclap. Within an hour, every major network had switched to breaking news. The crawl at the bottom of screens everywhere read, "Obama vs. Trump IQ test." Live Saturday, the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. Reporters began camping outside days in advance. Barricades went up. Staff whispered that it felt less like a test and more like a heavyweight bout, intellect versus instinct. Inside the White House, tension buzzed like static. Trump's inner circle worked around the clock to ensure he had every advantage. Consultants filled the conference room with charts, diagrams, and mock questions. "Make sure they know I'm ready," Trump told his team, striding in with loosened tie and booming voice. "I want the toughest questions: logic, math, memory. People need to see how fast my brain works." Victor Dunning exchanged a cautious glance with an aide. "Sir, that's exactly what they'll see," he said carefully. "We just want to make sure the format is fair." Trump leaned in, voice low. "Fair's fine. Losing isn't." Meanwhile, across the country, Obama's preparation looked entirely different. No advisors, no staged rehearsals, just a quiet evening in his home office, a notepad, and a small team of academic volunteers working remotely from Stanford. Dr. Helen Strauss, who had moderated his summit appearance, coordinated the testing format with independent experts. "Total transparency," she said during a video call. "No politics, just reasoning and analysis." "That's all I need," Obama said, jotting notes. Michelle walked in holding a folder. "You could just ignore all this," she said softly. "You don't have to prove anything." "I know," he replied, looking up. "But sometimes silence gets mistaken for weakness. I just want to show people that calm doesn't mean complacent." That night, while most of the world argued online, Obama sat quietly rereading old law school notes, pages filled with logical puzzles, thought exercises, and philosophical debates. He wasn't preparing to win. He was preparing to teach. In Washington, networks fought for exclusive broadcast rights. CNN and Fox battled for the live feed. NBC eventually secured the deal, with other outlets sharing syndication. The test would be moderated by a panel of three: Dr. Strauss, Dr. Raymond Chen from MIT, and Professor Linda Bauer, a cognitive scientist from Berkeley. All agreed on one condition: total neutrality. Trump's staff hated it. "We should have someone friendly in there," muttered an advisor. "Someone who won't embarrass him if things get heated." Victor cut in, "That's the problem. If we control it, it looks rigged. He needs credibility." Trump waved him off. "No. What I need is victory. Big, beautiful victory." In the days leading up to the test, the city transformed. Posters appeared outside coffee shops showing caricatures of the two presidents facing off like boxers. Late-night hosts aired fake training montages of actors pretending to study for IQ exams. The event had taken on a surreal energy, part comedy, part suspense thriller, yet under the humor, something real was brewing. Americans were talking about ego, leadership, and what intelligence actually meant. Parents debated it with their kids. College students streamed discussions on Twitch. Psychologists wrote op-eds breaking down the science behind IQ and emotional intelligence. In that conversation, Obama's calm, measured, deliberate tone began winning people over. By the Friday before the event, both men gave brief statements. Trump's was classic Trump, bold, brash, brimming with self-assurance. "I'm looking forward to showing everyone how smart I am," he told reporters outside the White House. "No one knows more about IQ than me." Obama's was brief and understated. "I think it'll be an interesting discussion," he said with a slight smile as he left a cafe in Martha's Vineyard. "It's good for people to see that intellect doesn't have to divide us. It can remind us that we're always learning." The difference in tone was striking. Even some of Trump's usual supporters admitted privately that Obama sounded presidential in a way that was hard to ignore. That evening, rehearsal lights flickered on at the National Press Club. Technicians adjusted microphones, set up cameras, and calibrated timers. Moderators reviewed each question in a private room. "Each question tests reasoning," Dr. Bauer explained. "Not memorization. This wasn't trivia. It was a test of how they thought under pressure." At 8 p.m., the moderators ran one final practice session, timing sample questions to perfection. 30 seconds per problem, enough to think, yet short enough to keep viewers on edge. Outside, the city buzzed. Crowds gathered, some holding signs reading brains over bluster, others wearing red hats claiming genius tested. Vendors sold popcorn and t-shirts. The air felt electric, as if the entire city were holding its breath. In a hotel room nearby, Obama reviewed the structure one last time with Dr. Strauss over a video call. "We'll keep it fair," she reassured him. "It's all logic and analysis." "You'll be fine," she added. Obama smiled. "I'm not worried about being fine. I'm worried about what this says about us." "The two presidents need a test to prove who's smart," she noted. "Maybe that's exactly why I'm doing it," he said calmly. Across town, Trump prepared in a suite packed with aides. He stood before a mirror, practicing expressions. "Strong face," he muttered. "Confident. No hesitation." A staffer leaned in. "Sir, people will be watching your reactions too." "I know," Trump snapped. "They'll love what they see." As the night wound down, both men readied themselves in their own ways, one through stillness, the other through showmanship. Between them, the nation held its collective breath, waiting for the moment when calm intellect would meet raw ego, live, unfiltered, unforgettable. When the cameras finally rolled the next evening, not even the moderators could predict what would unfold in those first minutes. Saturday night, Washington, D.C. buzzed, not with protests, not with rallies, but with anticipation. The streets near the National Press Club overflowed with camera crews and citizens clutching homemade signs. Some were playful, "May the best brain win." Others were bold, "Intelligence over ego." No matter where you stood politically, the energy was palpable. Something historic was about to happen. Inside, security was tight. Metal detectors lined the entrance, and reporters whispered into microphones that echoed off marble walls. One journalist from Reuters said it best, "It feels like a Super Bowl, except the trophy is bragging rights." Backstage, Obama sat calmly with a cup of tea, scrolling through notes from the moderators, reading each section with meticulous focus. His longtime aide, Miles Turner, leaned against the wall. "You know, most people in your position would be sweating bullets right now," he said. "That's because most people forget," Obama replied softly. "It's just a conversation with questions." "Think he'll play fair?" Miles asked. "I think he'll play loud," Obama said, setting his phone down. Across the hall, the energy in Trump's room was entirely different. Cameras flashed, staffers hustled, and makeup artists fussed over details. Assistants reviewed talking points that had nothing to do with the test. One rehearsed introductions. Trump paced in front of the mirror. "Stay focused. Be confident. Remember, people love a winner." Victor Dunning stood near the door, arms folded. "Mr. President, it's important to stay calm. If they praise Obama, it'll look better on camera if you seem gracious." Trump shot him a sharp look. "Gracious doesn't win ratings. Dominance does." At 7:58, the stage was ready. Two desks faced each other under soft lighting, like duelists. Between them, a long table held the moderators' tablets, microphones, and a digital timer mounted overhead. NBC anchor Dana Hollis opened the broadcast. "Good evening, America. Tonight, for the first time in history, a sitting president and a former president will participate in a live cognitive reasoning test, moderated by independent experts." The camera cut to the audience, journalists, students, invited guests. You could almost feel a collective heartbeat as the applause began. Then came the announcer's voice. "Please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama." They emerged from opposite sides of the stage. The contrast was striking. Trump strode in with his trademark swagger, waving and smiling, mouthing thank you to the crowd. Obama entered quietly, offering a small wave. His calm presence commanded attention without effort. They shook hands at center stage, polite, distant. "Mr. President, Mr. President." Dana greeted them both with a tight smile. "Thank you for agreeing to participate." Trump leaned toward his microphone. "It's great to be here. The ratings tonight, I'm hearing they're already through the roof." Obama chuckled lightly. "I'm just glad people are tuning into something that doesn't involve shouting." Laughter rippled through the room, tension easing for a moment. Dr. Strauss, seated at the moderator's table, spoke next. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. This will be a timed assessment of reasoning and logic. There are no trick questions, and all responses will be recorded live. Trump nodded confidently. Sounds easy. Obama smiled faintly. We'll see. The first question appeared on the screen. A train leaves Chicago traveling 60 miles per hour. Another leaves Dallas traveling 80 miles per hour toward Chicago. Where do they meet? Trump grabbed his marker, scribbling numbers frantically. 80 minus 60, divide by, wait, what's the distance again? Obama worked calmly, methodically calculating. Meeting point depends on distance, not speed. If the distance is 800 miles, approximately 343 miles from Chicago, Dr. Chen pressed the button. Correct. The audience clapped. Trump looked up, confused. Wait, we didn't get the full data. That's not fair, he muttered. Dr. Strauss smiled politely. All participants received the same information, Mr. President. Trump grumbled about bad math, the cameras capturing every flicker of irritation. The next questions came fast: pattern sequences, logic grids, visual puzzles. Obama remained composed, answering methodically. Trump talked through his process loudly, often interrupting the moderators. At one point, Dr. Bauer gently reminded him, please refrain from commentary until your final answer. Trump sighed. Fine. But people like to hear how I think, that's why I'm here. Obama kept his head down, solving quietly. In the control room, producers exchanged glances. One muttered, this is gold. By question 5, the difference in energy was impossible to ignore. Obama's focus was surgical, his confidence quiet and unshakable. Trump's intensity teetered on restless. He shifted in his seat, tapped his pen, and glanced toward the crowd for reassurance. The moderators paused for a brief break. The audience buzzed with whispers. Cameras zoomed in on both men. Obama sipped water. Trump adjusted his microphone, feeling good? Obama asked lightly, turning toward him. Trump smirked. I always feel good. Winning feels good. Let's see who's winning after the next round. Obama's easy grin stayed in place. The timer reset, and round 2 began. Within the first 31 seconds, something happened that no one in the room, not even the moderators, was prepared for. A soft beep signaled the start of the next segment. The screen behind them lit up with the first logic puzzle of round 2. Dr. Strauss read aloud, if every rose is a flower, and some flowers fade quickly, can we logically conclude that some roses fade quickly? It was a test of reasoning, not recall. Each layer demanded careful thought. Obama leaned slightly forward, pen in hand, eyes fixed on the screen. Trump leaned back, marker tapping on the desk, lips pursed. No, Obama said calmly. The statement doesn't specify that roses are among the flowers that fade quickly. It's a matter of scope, not assumption. Dr. Bauer nodded. Correct. The room erupted in polite but unmistakable applause. Trump gave a half smile, turning toward the moderators. You see, I was going to say that too, he said. But I wanted to let him go first. You know, I like to give people chances. A few audience members laughed awkwardly. Obama smiled politely and said nothing. The next question appeared, a numerical pattern. Trump's hand shot up before the full question was read. I got it already, he said confidently. Dr. Chen glanced up. You may answer, Mr. President. The pattern is 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, doubling each time. Next is 64. Everybody knows that. Dr. Strauss blinked. Sir, that's not the question. The screen scrolled to reveal the actual pattern. 3, 9, 27. Obama glanced at Trump and said gently, it's 81. Dr. Bauer confirmed, correct. Trump frowned. Well, it's basically the same concept. Everyone knows I'm great with numbers. Of course, Obama said, his tone neutral. We're all learning as we go. It wasn't overt sarcasm, but the subtle humor didn't escape the audience. Laughter rippled through the room, even some of Trump's staffers backstage smiled uncomfortably. The third question was a visual reasoning puzzle, a series of abstract shapes arranged in a grid. Both men had tablets to submit answers. Obama studied quietly, tracing invisible lines in the air. Trump tilted his head at the screen. "Too easy," he muttered. "Just match the triangles with the circles." He tapped his answer, satisfied. Obama waited a few more seconds, then selected his answer. The results flashed. Obama correct. Trump incorrect, Dr. Chin explained. "Mr. President, it wasn't about matching shapes. It was rotational symmetry." Trump raised an eyebrow. "Rotational, what now?" Chin repeated, patiently. "Each shape rotates 90 degrees between panels." Trump chuckled. "Sure. 90 degrees. Great, I knew that." The moderators tried to move on, but the atmosphere had shifted. Obama wasn't showing off. His calm rhythm, patience, and quiet reasoning were making the difference visible with every passing question. By the fourth question, a classic logic riddle, the energy in the room had completely changed. A farmer has 17 sheep. All but 9 run away. How many are left? Trump grinned. "That's an easy one, 8. Obama, still writing, said softly, 9. Dr. Bauer smiled. "That's correct." Trump blinked. "Wait, what?" "The question said all but 9, right?" Obama glanced at his notepad. "So, 9, he said calmly. A ripple of laughter swept through the room. Even Dr. Strauss cracked a smile. Trump shifted in his chair, his face coloring. Okay, he muttered, raising a hand slightly. "Cute question. I like real questions, not tricks. All questions are drawn from standardized reasoning tests, sir," Dr. Bauer replied evenly. For the first time, Trump didn't answer. He leaned back, arms crossed. As the next round began, something subtle but powerful emerged. Obama started explaining his reasoning aloud, not to boast, but to show how he thought. "When you slow down," he said during one question, "you realize most problems have simple patterns hiding in plain sight." People leaned in. Even viewers at home could sense it. The moment wasn't politics anymore, it was intellect at work. Trump tried to cut in. "I'm a fast thinker. I don't need to slow down. Quick decisions are how I've built everything." Obama smiled lightly. "Quick's good when you're sure. Accuracy matters too." The line landed like a verbal checkmate. Clips of it spread instantly online. "Quick's good when you're sure" became a trending quote worldwide. News anchors replayed it between segments. Commentators called it the calmest clapback in political history. Trump noticed the shift in the room and grew restless. He interrupted, cracked jokes, glanced at the audience as if to draw energy from them. The more he tried, the clearer it became. This wasn't his arena. Obama, meanwhile, remained untouched by the noise. Every question, every answer, he handled with steady rhythm. No rush, no boasting, no defense, just focused. As the clock ticked toward the halfway point, the moderators announced the next question, one that would test advanced pattern recognition. "Question 6, identify the next symbol in this sequence," Dr. Strauss said, clicking the remote. Complex diagrams appeared, looking like something from a graduate-level logic exam. Obama glanced once, then twice. His pen moved quickly. "Option C," he said. Dr. Bauer nodded. "Correct." Trump leaned forward. "Wait, that was too fast." Obama leaned back slightly. "Sometimes patterns are clearer when you stop looking for shortcuts." The room went silent for a heartbeat. Then the audience broke into applause. Trump forced a smile, voice tight. "People tell me I have a photographic memory. I just don't waste it on meaningless shapes." The moderators said nothing, the moment had already passed. The contrast was crystal clear. Obama, calm precision. Trump, anxious energy, but the real test, the one that would change everything, was coming, the 31-second question no one would forget. The air in the room shifted. Even through screens, viewers could feel it, the quiet before something big. Dr. Strauss adjusted her glasses and leaned into the microphone. We'll now move to the final problem of the round. This one tests both analytical reasoning and applied logic. On the screen appeared a deceptively simple word puzzle. A family has 3 daughters. Each daughter has 1 brother. How many children are in the family? The timer blinked to life. 0:0:31. Trump grabbed his pen, muttering to himself. 3 daughters, 1 brother each, that's 3 brothers, 3 sisters, 6. 6 total. He wrote boldly, nodding confidently. Obama didn't move at first. He watched the timer for a moment, then lowered his gaze to the notepad. Calm. Methodical. Efficient that he whispered almost inaudibly, each daughter has 1 brother, same brother. A barely perceptible smile, and he wrote, 4. With 23 seconds left, he said quietly, 4. Dr. Bauer pressed the evaluation key. The green light blinked. Correct. A brief silence fell, the kind that happens when a crowd collectively realizes they've just witnessed something subtle yet sharp. Then applause erupted, polite at first, then louder, longer. Dr. Strauss smiled, visibly impressed. Excellent reasoning. You identified the relational assumption. Obama nodded, as if it were just another Tuesday. Sometimes you just have to read what's actually there, not what you expect to see. Trump snapped his head toward him. What's that supposed to mean? Obama smiled. Sometimes we make things complicated when they're simple. The audience laughed, not cruelly, but with a mix of relief, admiration, and disbelief. Trump forced a grin, voice hardening. Well, I got it wrong on purpose. I wanted to show people how tricky these questions are. It's about exposing flaws, not playing teacher. The goal is reasoning accuracy, sir. Dr. Chin interjected gently. Exactly, Trump said quickly, as though planned all along. Even his supporters could sense the shift. That 31-second exchange had changed everything. Obama hadn't just answered correctly, he had done it with such poise that Trump's bluster felt small in comparison. I in the control room, a producer whispered, that's it. That's the moment. Another added, run the replay. Make sure people see the clock. Seconds later, side-by-side screens showed the timer counting down, Obama calmly writing 4 with time to spare, Trump 6 bold and anxious. Trump scribbled furiously, crossing out numbers and recalculating. Across the nation, commentators would later call it the 31-second lesson. In living rooms from coast to coast, silence fell. Parents explained the logic to their kids. Teenagers posted clips captioned, Obama ends the test in 31 seconds flat. Even Trump's allies struggled to spin it. On one conservative panel, a commentator tried, well, IQ tests don't really prove anything. Another shot back, then why challenge someone to one on live TV? Back at the venue, the moderators prepared to wrap up the round, but the energy had shifted completely. Obama sat comfortably, leaning back slightly, hands folded. Trump shifted in his seat, jaw tight, eyes darting between notes and the audience. Dr. Strauss smiled at both men. We'll now move to analysis and reflection. Before she could continue, Trump interjected. Before we go on, I just want to say this was fun, but it's a little biased. Everyone knows that. Dr. Bauer asked gently, well, they're like trick questions, not real-world questions. I solve real-world problems, business, politics, deals. Obama looked up from his notepad. Problem solving is problem solving, Mr. President. It doesn't change based on the setting. A murmur of approval ran through the audience. Trump laughed a little too loudly. You'd think I'd be used to hostile environments by now. Obama raised an eyebrow, still composed. I think people just want honesty. That's all. For the first time that evening, Trump went quiet. He glanced at the audience, then at the cameras. The moderators resumed. That concludes round 2, Dr. Strauss said. Scores will be tallied and displayed shortly. The numbers appeared on the digital board behind them. Obama, 9 out of 10 correct. Trump, 4 out of 10 correct. Applause swept the room, respectful, restrained, but undeniably strong. Obama gave a polite nod. Trump sat rigid, eyes locked on the scoreboard, expression unreadable. In that silence, something unspoken passed between them, not hostility, but recognition. Obama looked over and said softly, "You know, intelligence isn't about competition. It's about curiosity." Trump didn't reply. He stared straight ahead, gripping his pen. The moderators thanked both presidents for participating. The broadcast transitioned to commentary. Reporters typed furiously, headlines already forming in their minds. Obama outsmarts Trump in 31 seconds. Grace versus bravado, the IQ showdown, but the story wasn't over. Trump wasn't the kind of man to walk away quietly. Backstage, his team huddled, debating damage control. Victor Dunning spoke first. "Sir, maybe we spin this as entertainment, not competition. You were showing leadership by participating." Trump shook his head. "No. We fight this. People need to know, it was rigged." Meanwhile, Obama stood outside, greeting moderators, shaking hands, smiling modestly. When asked by a reporter how he felt about the outcome, he said simply, "It's not about who's smarter. It's about how we use what we know to make things better." That sentence went viral, not for cleverness, but because it rang true. The backlash, especially from Trump's camp, would turn this single test into something far bigger than anyone predicted. The moment the scores appeared, Obama 9-10, Trump 4 out of 10, the internet detonated. Comment sections, newsrooms, group chats pulsed with disbelief. Every network switched to live commentary, anchors struggling to parse what they just witnessed. Inside the National Press Club, the moderators stood to thank the presidents. But the applause hadn't stopped. Obama calmly rose, buttoned his jacket, and extended his hand to Trump. "Good game," he said quietly. Trump hesitated, then shook it, expression tight. "Yeah, great show." The camera zoomed on the handshake, freeze-framed for front pages worldwide. By morning, Obama calm and slightly smiling, Trump stiff and unreadable. As post-event commentary began, both were escorted to separate rooms for interviews. The contrast couldn't have been starker. In a smaller studio, Obama sat relaxed, hands folded. NBC anchor Dana Hollis asked, "Mr. Obama, people are already calling this the 31-second lesson. How do you feel about how it went tonight?" Obama smiled modestly. "I think it went the way it should. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about showing people that intelligence isn't loud, it's thoughtful." Hollis nodded. "Some say you made it look effortless." "I've had practice staying calm under pressure," Obama replied. That's all this really was, a reminder that leadership is about composure. Meanwhile, in the next room, Trump's setup was chaotic. Staffers whispered nervously, adjusting lights. The president sat stiffly, jaw clenched. Fox host Dan Richards began sympathetically, "Mr. President, some critics are saying tonight was a clear win for Obama. What's your response?" Trump leaned forward. "First of all, that test was unfair. They picked questions meant to confuse, not show intelligence. Everyone knows I'm one of the smartest people on the planet. Ask anyone, generals, business leaders, they'll tell you." Richards nodded cautiously. "So you don't think it was a fair test?" "Not at all," Trump said. "Biased. I could design a better one in an hour, a real-world test, not riddles about trains and sheep." Behind the scenes, Victor Dunning rubbed his temples. He knew the tone, defensive, deflecting, making things worse. "We should pivot," he whispered to an aide. He was digging in. Obama's interview ended with quiet grace. As he exited the building, reporters shouted questions about Trump's reaction. He paused, glanced over his shoulder, and said simply, "I think the American people saw what they needed to see." Then he slipped into his car and vanished into the Washington night. Inside, Trump wasn't ready to let go. His team scrambled to craft a narrative. We say it was entertainment, Victor urged. You volunteered, showed confidence. Spin it as confidence. Trump shook his head. No. We call it rigged. I know those moderators, they were never neutral. By the time he finally left the building, social media had already chosen its story. Clips of the 31-second question flooded every corner of the internet. TikTok users added dramatic music. YouTube creators slowed the footage, highlighting Obama's calm expression against Trump's frantic scribbling. Hashtags like #ObamaWins and #IQGate dominated global trends. Even foreign leaders weighed in with subtle jabs. One European minister tweeted, "Reasoning beats rhetoric every time." Late-night shows went into overdrive. Jimmy Kimmel replayed the family riddle 3 times, noting that it didn't just stump Trump, it was the moment he realized the test was real. The audience howled, but in conservative circles, outrage simmered. Pundits claimed the moderators had stacked the deck. They wanted to humiliate him, one Fox panelist argued. Elitism at its finest, intellectual showboating. Others admitted the obvious. He challenged a man known for his intellect, said another commentator. He set the stage and walked right into it. By midnight, the White House communications team was in crisis mode. Tweets went viral showing side-by-side stills, Trump's furrowed brow versus Obama's slight, knowing smile. Captions were brutal, the face of overconfidence meeting reality. In the private residence, Trump flipped between networks, watching the replays. Each one slowed down the iconic 31-second moment, Obama calm and confident, Trump scribbling frantically. Enough, he growled, slamming the remote. Get me on camera tomorrow. I'll explain it. Victor sighed. Sir, people might be ready to move on. Exactly, Trump snapped. That's why I won't let them. We control the story. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Obama called Dr. Strauss to thank her. You handled it well, he said. So did you, she replied. That 31-second answer, it's going to be studied in media classes for years. Obama laughed lightly. I just read carefully. By morning, newspapers carried variations of the same headline, Calm versus Chaos, Obama outsmarts Trump, a lesson in leadership. Perhaps the most telling commentary came from ordinary citizens. A truck driver in Kansas told a local reporter, I don't care about politics. I just liked seeing someone stay calm when the other guy lost it. The story had grown beyond politics. People weren't debating IQ anymore, they were talking about patience, pride, and the difference between loudness and intelligence. In the West Wing, the next day, Trump's advisors tried to shift topics, but the president kept circling back. They won't be laughing for long, he said. We'll do another event. Something big. Something huge. Victor, exhausted, muttered, Sir, sometimes the best win is walking away. Trump frowned. Winners don't walk away. Yet for millions watching worldwide, the test already felt decided. It wasn't just about intellect, it was about composure under pressure. In those 31 seconds of silence, while one man quietly wrote 4 and the other defended 6, the difference had become crystal clear. As the media frenzy built and the world debated that night's meaning, the days that followed would turn this simple test into a political earthquake. By sunrise, the world had chosen sides. Cable news anchors replayed Obama's calm answer, the now iconic 31-second moment, while social media dissected every expression, every word, every pause. The phrase "he answered it in 31 seconds" became a meme, shorthand for moments of quiet, unassuming mastery. Across America, families discussed it over breakfast. In a diner in St. Louis, 2 older men watched silently before one said, "That's the difference between confidence and wisdom." The other nodded. One talks. The other thinks. In Los Angeles, a college professor began her class by playing the clip. This, she told her students, is how composure dismantles chaos. Her students laughed, but they listened closely. They had seen Obama's calm reasoning against Trump's hurried defense. By mid-morning, the story had escalated into full panels on every network. CNN's headline read, "IQ test or power test?" MSNBC called it, "the 31-second reckoning." Even Fox, trying to soften the blow, ran with, "Trump questions test fairness," but online, the verdict was already clear. TikTok creators stitched together montages of Obama calmly walking through logic puzzles, set to music that made each clip feel almost cinematic. YouTube commentators froze frames of Trump's expressions at the exact moment he realized his mistake. On Reddit, one user posted, 31 seconds of silence louder than 4 years of shouting. International media picked up the story. In London, The Guardian called it a public masterclass in calm intellect. Germany's Der Spiegel ran the headline, "Obama outsmarts Trump and the world watches." French outlets simply called it "Le silence d'Obama." Meanwhile, a growing number of Trump loyalists dug in. Conservative talk shows spun the event as elitist theater. The media is celebrating an IQ test while ordinary Americans are working 2 jobs, one commentator said. This isn't about brains, it's about values. Even that argument felt fragile. The clip was too powerful to ignore. At a high school in Cleveland, students debated in the hallway. "Trump's not dumb," one said, "he's just fast." Another replied, "No, he's loud." There's a difference. The teacher smiled quietly. Politics, for once, had turned into a lesson, not about policy, but about perception. Late-night television went relentless. Colbert opened with, "If this were a boxing match, Obama won by checkmate." The audience roared. Saturday Night Live released a parody sketch within 48 hours showing Trump trying to change his answer mid-test. "I said 4, you just didn't hear me." Humor masked something deeper, a collective sense of relief. Americans across the country felt that seeing Obama's poise was like reclaiming a memory of dignity and leadership. It wasn't about partisanship anymore, it was about tone, balance, and intelligence demonstrated through restraint. Behind the scenes, Obama refused to gloat. He declined interviews, turned down appearances, and told his staff, "Let's not make this a circus." The moment speaks for itself. That humility only amplified public respect. His social media account stayed silent, except for one tweet. 2 days later, "Wisdom isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing when to listen." The post became the most liked tweet of the month. Trump, by contrast, grew increasingly frustrated. The more he tried to control the narrative, the more it controlled him. He called the test fake, accused the moderators of bias, and demanded a recount. Every statement reminded people of the tonal contrast between the 2 men. Victor Dunning, exhausted from 2 days of damage control, finally pulled him aside in the Oval Office. "Mr. President," he said quietly, "people aren't reacting to the score. They're reacting to how you handled it." Trump frowned. "Handled what?" "I didn't lose anything." Victor sighed. "Sometimes winning isn't about numbers. It's about how you carry yourself when you're wrong." "I'm never wrong," Trump shot back. That single sentence, overheard by an aide, leaked within hours and became another headline. Trump, "I'm never wrong." In contrast, Obama's restraint made him appear even stronger. Journalists wrote essays about the difference between intelligence and humility. One commentator observed, "This wasn't an IQ test, it was a character test." Even among Republicans, quiet murmurs surfaced. A longtime strategist admitted off the record, "I underestimated Obama again." For ordinary Americans, the story took on a life of its own. Parents told their children, "That's how you handle pressure." Teachers used it to explain logic. Churches referenced it in sermons about patience. It had become rare, a political event transformed into a moral parable. Through it all, Obama remained silent. He refused interviews, let the headlines run their course, and stepped back from the spotlight. When a journalist finally caught him outside a bookstore in Martha's Vineyard, asking for his final thoughts on the IQ test, he said simply, "Pride makes noise. Intelligence doesn't need to." That clip went viral too. The White House tried to drown out the moment with new announcements. policy statements, rallies, and promises, but the internet wasn't letting go. The meme of the week was a split image, Obama calmly writing 4, Trump frowning beside the 6, with the caption "Read the question." The IQ test challenge had begun as a show of bravado, but it ended as a reminder of something timeless: wisdom isn't loud, and grace under pressure can disarm any storm. Yet the story didn't truly end there. In the days that followed, the aftermath revealed something deeper about leadership, pride, and what it means to lose with dignity. By the time the dust settled, the test had become more than a viral story. It was a cultural landmark. Late-night shows moved on, but the clip of Obama's 31-second answer lived on, reposted endlessly, shown in classrooms, discussed in coffee shops. It became shorthand for quiet confidence. The moment thought triumphed over noise. Weeks later, journalists described it as the calm heard around the world. Editorials poured in, not about politics, but about pride, intelligence, and human nature. At the National Press Club, staff members joked about framing the test questions in the hallway. That was history, one said. Inside the White House, however, the mood was far less lighthearted. Trump's team was exhausted. His public approval dipped sharply, and advisors scrambled to redirect attention, pushing new talking points, economic wins, trade deals, but the world was no longer listening. Every press conference still began with the same question: do you regret challenging Obama? Each time, Trump brushed it off. No regrets, he'd say. People loved it, great entertainment. But beneath the bravado, the weariness showed. Late-night tweets had slowed, and even his speeches carried a trace of bitterness. Victor Dunning, his longest-serving aide, finally spoke honestly. He waited until the president was alone in the Oval Office. "Sir," he said quietly, "I've been with you through every campaign, every headline, but this hit differently." People didn't laugh at the mistake, they connected with the grace on the other side of it. Trump stared. "Grace doesn't win elections," he said flatly. Victor hesitated. "Maybe not, but it earns something you can't buy for a moment." Trump said nothing, turning back to the window to watch the faint reflection of himself in the glass. Meanwhile, in Massachusetts, Obama's life settled back into its rhythm. He taught a few guest lectures, spent time with his daughters, and rarely spoke about the event. At a university Q&A, when asked what he thought of it all, he said simply, "If people learn something from it, I'm happy. That's all I ever wanted, for them to remember that knowledge isn't something to weaponize." The audience applauded, not politely, but with weight. Across the country, the event came to symbolize something bigger than a political rivalry. Teachers turned it into a case study in emotional intelligence. Parents shared it with their children as a story about staying calm when others lose control. For younger generations, it became a lesson: confidence isn't measured by volume, it's measured by patience. In one Minneapolis elementary school, a teacher wrote the puzzle on the board: a family has 3 daughters. Each daughter has 1 brother. How many children are in the family? As students worked through it, she explained, the trick isn't math. It's reading carefully, thinking before reacting, just like life. And that's how the story spread, not through politics, but as parable. Even months later, when reporters tried to reignite the debate, Obama refused to add fuel. "It was just a test," he told one journalist, "but if it reminded people that thinking clearly matters, then I'm fine with that." Trump, however, couldn't let it go. At a rally in Ohio, he brought it up again. "That test, total scam," he said. "Everybody knows it, they cheated, probably had the answers ahead of time." The crowd cheered, but the spark was gone. It wasn't anger anymore, it was fatigue. Afterward, Victor pulled him aside again. "Sir, maybe it's time to move on." Trump's eyes narrowed. "You think I lost?" Victor exhaled. "No. I think you forgot why you started the challenge in the first place." For the first time, Trump didn't respond. He just walked away. That night, as pundits replayed his rally, Obama was seen leaving a quiet bookstore in Martha's Vineyard, holding a stack of novels and waving to locals. A reporter approached, asking for his final thoughts on the now famous test. He smiled faintly. We all get tested eventually, not by what we know, but by how we act when the world is watching. The line resonated far beyond politics. In the months that followed, it appeared on posters, classroom walls, and social media feeds. People repeated it whenever someone lost control or failed a challenge. The test had started as an IQ contest but revealed something far deeper: the contrast between ego and integrity, pride and patience. For all his intellect, Obama's real victory wasn't answering a question in 31 seconds. It was showing that true intelligence isn't proven on paper, it's shown in how one handles pressure, criticism, and defeat with grace. Trump's challenge, meant to expose weakness, instead reminded millions that humility is a quiet kind of power, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself. The lesson was simple yet lasting: wisdom doesn't argue, it demonstrates. And somewhere beneath the noise of politics and headlines, people remembered what leadership once looked like: composed, thoughtful, unshaken. So the next time someone tries to measure you by their own yardstick, remember, it's not about how fast you answer, or how loud you speak, it's about how steady you remain when the clock is ticking. True strength comes from composure, and grace speaks louder than ego.